Chapter 2. The Aftermath. Morning sunlight streamed through Kyle's apartment window, but he didn't wake to its warmth. Instead, he groaned as his body ached from head to toe. Every muscle felt like it had been stretched too far, and his head throbbed with a dull pain. He opened his eyes, slowly blinking against the light. Something was wrong. The jacket draped over the back of his couch wasn't his, and his shredded clothes, torn almost beyond recognition, were piled in the corner. He tried to piece together the fragments of his memory, but found nothing but a blank void. Sitting up, he caught sight of himself in the mirror across the room. There was dirt smeared on his face and arms, faint claw marks on his chest that looked oddly familiar. Panic crept in as flashes of distorted images flickered in his mind. Glowing eyes, screams, and blood? Kyle staggered to his feet, gripping the edge of the couch for support. His phone buzzed on, the coffee table snapping him out of his thoughts. He grabbed it, his hands trembling. A flood of messages filled the screen, most of them about the incident at the company event. Did you hear? Brad and the others are missing. Cops are looking into it. Crazy night. Huh. Stay safe, man. People are saying something attacked them. Kyle's stomach churned. Missing? Something attacked them? He read the messages over and over, but they didn't make sense. He'd left the event early, hadn't he? Before he could spiral further, there was a knock at his door. He froze. For a moment, he considered ignoring it, but the knocking grew more insistent. Kyle, it's Jane. Please open up. Jane. The name brought a flicker of relief. He hurried to the door and opened it just enough to see her. She stood there, clutching her purse, her expression a mix of concern and hesitation. Hey, she said softly. Can I come in? Kyle hesitated but stepped aside, letting her enter. She glanced around the small apartment, her eyes lingering on the shredded clothes and the unfamiliar jacket. You don't remember, do you? Jane asked, her voice almost a whisper. Kyle shook his head. Remember what? What happened last night? She took a deep breath, sitting down on the edge of the couch. You changed, Kyle, into something not human. He stared at her, waiting for her to laugh or say it was a joke, but her expression remained serious. What are you talking about? He said, his voice rising. That's impossible. Jane reached in her purse and pulled out a small piece of torn fabric. It was part of his shirt, the same one he'd been wearing at the event. It was smeared with dirt and blood. I saw it happen, she said, her voice trembling. You turned into a werewolf. You attacked Brad and the others. They're gone, Kyle. His knees buckled, and he sank into the armchair across from her. No, that can't be true. I'm not lying, Jane said firmly. I was there. I saw you. But you didn't hurt me. Kyle's head spun as he tried to process her words. A werewolf? It sounded absurd, something out of a horror movie. But the evidence was there. The torn clothes, the messages, the flashes of memory. Why didn't you call the police? He asked finally. Jane looked away, her hands twisting the hem of her sweater. Because I don't think you meant to do it. You didn't seem in control. And I didn't want them to hurt you. Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Kyle didn't know whether to feel grateful or terrified. The person he'd been, the creature she described, felt like a stranger. What do I do? He whispered, more to himself than to her. Jane stood and placed a hand on his shoulder. We'll figure it out. Together. But even as she said the words, Kyle could see the fear in her eyes. Fear of him, of what he might become again, and he couldn't blame her. He was afraid too.